Yo.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Hacking Health Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Canning, with Dave Kennedy.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back. I want to just put out a public service announcement and an apology. We did not release a podcast last week. People may or may not have noticed. We fucked it royally because of travel, both of us.
Yes.
So that's on us. And I had planned, I was like, maybe we could record one later in the week and just put it out randomly, because we did have a topic that will not be relevant when you're listening to this now. But I had no voice. Well, I had somebody else's voice. I just said to Dave, I do not have Pop Smoke's voice anymore. I'm back to almost my own voice. So we're good to go on that. But anyway, apologies for that. We're back with another episode. What's up, dude? Nice beard.
Hey, thanks, man. I'm trying. It's still here. I haven't shaved it yet, so it's still going. I had it trimmed up a little bit over the weekend. She took a little bit more than I would have liked. It was actually a little bit longer, but I'm still working on it. Yes.
Nice. Good. Just to keep it.
I don't know if I can grow as like fluffy of a beard as you, though. I'm trying. We'll see.
Mine is very dense at the minute. And I actually saw a photo of myself earlier, and I was like, I quite like it when it's trimmed, but I do that quite a lot. I'm like, I want to be bigger than smaller. It's the same as me. I want to be bigger, smaller. But it's very dense at the minute, and I'm getting some real nice like gray bits through here.
Yes, as you can see, bike down here, all grays.
You just gotta keep them. I think that's just part of it. I think
part of the process.
So it's Thanksgiving week, so happy Thanksgiving week, everybody.
Am I to get 6,000 calories this week?
Well, I mean, you'll submit your check-in on the day of Thanksgiving, so I guess we'll find out.
Wednesday. Yeah, I'll do it Wednesday night. So no, it's got a lot planned actually. One of my buddies, Bobby, who I was in the Marines with, he's coming into town, so he's gonna have Thanksgiving dinner with us, which is cool. I haven't seen him in a bit. And hanging out with family and friends and stuff like that. This weekend I did 2 days of airsoft.
Well, what's the protocol? Like, you always have a big show. Like, are you smoking a turkey? Are you catching a turkey? Are you shooting a turkey? Like,
catching, hunting, cooking, smoking. Maybe smoking a turkey and some ham. And Erin's doing all the sides, which is great. So she makes amazing stuffing. We have this whole tag team duo that goes in and does desserts and stuff like that, and family members all come over our house and just kind of enjoy and appreciate family. So how about you?
Have you got the appropriate cream yet?
Yes.
So you don't have to fuck it on the day. You already got it?
Yes, I got it this time. I actually have it. It's there. I don't have to DoorDash it at the last minute on Thanksgiving.
The right one?
Yeah, got the right one.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's not Thanksgiving here, so I'll not be celebrating, but I do always enjoy the food photos that everybody posts. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah. I did airsoft twice this weekend, and I realized that doing it twice in one weekend probably isn't the best idea, because my whole body, I did the one mentioned today of Orange Theory, and it was not a great day. My whole body is exhausted and I'm tired and run down. And so I was like, all right, maybe twice in one weekend is a little bit too much. So, and I just played like total ass on Sunday. Like, I was like shooting my own teammates on accident like 5 times in a row. I didn't have, it was just not a good day.
You were not man of the match on Sunday then?
I should definitely just chill on the weekends after one day of airsoft, not do two.
You know what? Like, this is where everything is an experiment comes in. Do you know what I mean? You experimented with doing it twice in one weekend. You know not to do that in the future.
That's right. It's kind of like lifting. It's like, I can't only lift twice a week. I have to lift 7 days a week. And then, Yeah.
That's fair. And just what you mentioned there, your full body is in pain. I have to give a shout out to Clayton, who last minute got a ticket to a Hyrox event. Now, I don't know if you know much about what Hyrox is, but it's a fucking brutality on your body. So the only reason I know is because Sarah, she has done 4 this year, which again, respect. But essentially, it's like a hybrid fitness event, and it's broken up into, you have to run a kilometer. I don't know if this is the correct order, so anybody who's going to give me shit, please don't. Run a kilometer, you have to do 1,000 meters on the ski erg, run a kilometer, you have to do a 50-meter sled push, run a kilometer, a 50-meter sled pull, run a kilometer, 100 wall balls, run a kilometer, 100-meter lunges, run a kilometer, either 80 meters or 100 meters burpee broad jumps, run a kilometer, 1,000-meter row, and then run a kilometer. And it's all timed, and he has not trained for it at all. He literally got the ticket 2 days before the event, and he was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I was like, I don't know if you know what you're getting yourself in for, but cool. But respect that he finished it because it is absolutely fucking brutal. But he was messaging me today being like, I can't actually physically move. Like my entire body is fucked.
That's crazy. That sounds absolutely horrible and something that I'm not interested in whatsoever.
Well,
but
I've actually signed you up for one just in January. So
oh, good, great. Yeah, figures.
And you maybe need to order a ski erg for the gym.
Aaron, hey, by the way. Yeah, no, training's been actually going really good. 0 injuries. My deadlifts are back to, so I did 500-pound deadlift for 5, which was right around the max that I did when I was hitting 600. So I'm pretty close to my max again, which is great. That 5th one was a little sus, but it was definitely good. And I'll tell you, man, feeling strong right now, and the added energy with the calories is great. So it's been going really well. It's funny. I feel like there's like 5 stages of denial in a surplus. You know, you like when you first start to get it, it's like the most amazing thing ever because you have all this energy. Then you start to fill up a little bit, and then you're like, oh man, I'm fat again, you know. And then you're like, oh, I don't see my abs as much again, and you're like, this is too much. I need to go back on a cut. And you're like, no, stay the course, you're okay. And it's like you go through these like weird stages of like, you just gotta let the process work. It's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay to see the scale go up a little bit here and there, and kind of run through it. But I'm definitely feeling a lot stronger and feeling a lot more fuller and closed. And so once you get through the, hey, I'm not going to have as much, you know, of grade of abs anymore, you start to feel this like, man, I feel big. Like I feel really big and great, you know? So now you get into the, I'm, you know, super strong and big, and you go from there. So it's been fun.
Well, the thing about it is like you start to feel better in your clothes, which is obviously what the majority, I hope, of people see you, and they don't see you with your top off and your abs. So like you get sort of more.
Well, I just wear no shirt in the wintertime, so it's just
got that cold but just on the note on this, maybe we could work towards a 1 rep max testing of your deadlift for our event at the end of January, and that's what we can work towards.
Yeah.
To see where we're at in terms of 600 or beyond.
That's right. See where we're at.
There you go. I've said it here now, so that's your goal.
That's my goal.
High rocks and then 1 rep max testing.
No, not the high rocks. The 1 rep max test, I'm on board with.
Okay, cool. Right. Today, I want to start talking about, I guess, the best way I can put it is 2 things. Number 1, sort of like future planning for the start of next year. And second of all, I have thought about this for everybody and I've come at you with a solution. So we are coming into the end of 2024 and obviously the start of 2025. And I would imagine people will have the usual fitness goals that they will have, want to get their shit together, want to feel a lot better and absolutely kill it in terms of their health and fitness. And truthfully, I thought a bit about this before the podcast and I was like, how am I going to introduce this? Like, how did it come about? And the truth of the matter is how it came about was I had a call with a Hacks group probably about 4 weeks ago, and I was asking them like what did they think would be beneficial to them, like before they signed up. Like what could I create, what could I make, what could I give or build in terms of like a program or a video series or whatever. And I didn't want it to just be another shitty PDF that nobody's ever going to do anything with, because I've downloaded infinite amounts of those in my time and never have looked at any of them. And it was pretty unanimous that everybody said like almost like an introduction to what it is that we do on the inside, like an introduction to coaching, like a shorter version of it or a light version of it, or just like a crash course essentially on what that looked like. So I've been back and forward for the past few weeks in terms of what that's going to look like. And I have come up with what I'm just going to call the program. And the reason that I called it the program, number 1, because I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole of like, what am I going to call this? And I went back and listened to probably maybe 5 or 6 testimonials to sort of see what everybody said. And everybody says the program. I've been with the program for 8 months. I've been with the program for 7 months. I'm like, okay, well, there we go. We're just called the program. So we will be launching the program on the 13th of January, which is going to be something new for me because obviously, as you know, I am very much a person who likes to work with people for an extended period of time. Generally, the minimum commitment is 12 months because I feel like that's what it actually takes to make a proper change. But I realize that there's a lot of issues around that and people don't want to commit for that length of time. So it will be an 8-week program. Now, I want to caveat this all by saying this is not going to be 8 weeks. It's going to totally change your life. You're not going to get to the start of March and be like, fuck, nailed it, completed health and fitness. I do not need to do anything ever again. But the way that I have designed it is to basically give you an understanding of the things that you need to do, give you an understanding of the tools that we have on the inside, and give you sort of, I guess, a kickstart in terms of what you could do to build this out for yourself long term?
So this is a new program you're launching for folks that want to come aboard, and it's a crash course into the basics, fundamentals, and everything that you would need to be successful in your fitness journey.
Yep.
See, I really like that. I think where most people struggle with is like, hey, if I commit to 6 months, or if I commit to a year, or if I commit to this and this, and I'm not successful, then that's kind of on me, right? Whereas something like this is nice because you're like, hey, I can learn the foundation of things that I need to be doing. I can test the waters to see if I can be successful with it, and then from there move on. So I think it's really important. And I think, I wish, I had known, and I've said this before on other podcasts, but I think, I wish I would have known early on the fundamentals, the basics, the things that I needed to know about my body to really have somebody structure that for me so that I could be, in a successful state moving forward. And so that's really, really beneficial. So
yeah, it's going to be cool because I think what I've tried to do is basically cram everything that we do, because I think because we do it on the inside and because I live and breathe it day to day, I often take it for granted as to what actually goes into true long-term change. I don't ever really talk about the mobility stuff that Lorena does, or the breathwork, the stuff that Sean does, or the sort of detail and in depth that we go into in terms of the nutrition and the sort of educational library and all the additional resources and the community and all the other bits and pieces. Like, because we deal with it on a day-to-day basis, I don't necessarily talk too much about it. So it'll be basically an 8-week introduction to what it is, like what we do on the inside. This is what I believe it actually takes to make long-term change, and how you can start to, I guess, install those behaviors, habits, and tools into your life so you can be successful long-term.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I think most people expect, when they think of kind of transforming or dieting or whatever you want to call it, which is the bad words we don't like using here, it's this massive commitment that is going to take up all their time and consume our time, where really it's instilling those little micro habits, little things that you can do over time that start to make those big changes. And I think, you start to see some of the newbie gains, things that you see immediately, but, change in how you want to look, how you want to feel, how you want to optimize your life. It just starts with small changes of behavior, and having somebody really coach you through that and understand what those changes are so that you can be successful. That's really what makes a big difference. And I want to reference an article. There's an article in Medical News Today that came out yesterday that I really liked. And it was talking about just by walking, the benefits of that, right? And, and people are like, oh, walking, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. Walking is probably one of the best things that you can do cardiovascular wise for your health, period. And so I'll read some of the blurbage here, just a couple of the bullet points. But if Americans over 40 walked as much each day as most of the physically active members of the population, they could extend their lifespan by at least 5 years, a new data study finds. The least physically active 25% of the population stood the most to gain, according to the predictive model. For each hour of walking they do, they can extend their lifespan by about 6 hours. While the study may have its limitations since it was based on existing data from certain portions, so what we call meta-analysis, of the American population, the findings do line up with known health benefits. So, crazy to think that just by going out and walking 30 minutes to an hour, you do that consecutively, you can expand your lifespan by at least 5 years. To me, that's a pretty small change for a pretty massive, increase in performance in your overall thing. And plus, helps with, your brain development, cardiovascular risk, helps you, clearing your mind, and meditative components of that. There's so many different pieces that go into it, but overall, one of those things that could be really huge for you just by going out and walking. But it's just, that's one small thing, right? But instilling those habits and getting used to that, those are things that become really important.
Agree. And one thing I'm going to do, and this is me sort of leaning into the people that I know that I have and what I understand keeps them engaged, is sort of gamify the full thing. So there will be prizes. There's over $10,000 worth of prizes as we go throughout. We will have a complete winner of the full challenge. It's not going to be necessarily based on the biggest weight loss or whatever. It's probably going to be based on a point system. So we're going to have points for everything, like you said, even about steps and whatever else. Like everything will be sort of point and graded as we go through the 8 weeks. So we'll give away a year's worth of coaching on the other side. We'll also give a discounted 50% discount, and we'll give 2 people away the money that they invest in the start. I'm also going to do spot prizes as we go through. So for example, if you're talking about steps, potentially on week 3, whoever has the most steps recorded, they will get some sort of spot prize. So we're going to gamify the full thing. And even like you said there, I know if I have a leaderboard, which I will, in terms of steps, people will want to do more than everybody else. So even just that little bit of additional sort of incentive is to beat everybody else on the leaderboard to get everybody out walking, I think will be beneficial.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think the gamification is also a lot of fun because you're
Yes,
competing
it's
with
going to
other
be fun.
people.
It is going to be
It's
fun.
looking at what you can actually do and kind of outperform. Like I remember, a while back, a lot of the Hacking Health members, I'd see somebody would have 10,100 steps. And I'm like, okay, I need to get 10,500 steps.
Yeah.
It's always this back and forth going to try to see if you could just do a little bit more, than somebody else and outperform. And then it got a little bit crazy for a while there where, I'd make sure my strain was on Whoop was like a 20 every day just because I didn't want anybody to beat me on there. Definitely makes a big difference.
For sure. And I think that I'm going to lean into that as well. And obviously that plays into the the community aspect and having sort of a group of people go through it together. So I'm looking forward to that side of it. And for anybody all the eagle-eared listeners, I guess, over the past few weeks, I have been creating notes and sending them to Dave, but I haven't done it this week because I want to sort of go through it. I've made the notes of what the sort of 8 weeks are going to look like, and I just want your sort of live feedback so you'll not be able to hide it. So basically, we're going to launch week 1, or day 1 is going to be Monday the 13th of January next year. Week 0 before that, we'll have a sort of onboarding and welcome call on the 6th of January. And basically what that's going to be is sort of foundations and goal setting. Now, whenever I mean foundations, is like the data that we're going to have to track. This is your check-in sheet. This is everybody within the group. This is when your weekly calls are going to be. What are your goals? Like, what do you want to achieve long-term, and how we can sort of at least set you on your way with that. Again, to your point of like what's realistic in terms of time management, do you have time to do 5 sessions a week? Do you have time to only do 2 sessions a week? What do you have available for equipment and stuff like that? So it's like going through that in the initial week to just sort of correlate the data on my end so that I can basically be ready to launch and start everybody full send from January 13th. Then what we're going to do in terms of week 1 is do nutrition 101. So how to track your food, what your calories are, how to set your calories based on the data that you've tracked the week before, what macros are, what to prioritize, and essentially how to not eat like an asshole is probably the best way to phrase it. Week 2 then is going to be movement mastery. So everybody will have their program at this stage. And I think the biggest thing from that is, number 1, any sort of mobility limitations. So we're going to bring Lorena in heavily on that week to sort of look at everybody's sort of form. We'll do a basic sort of mobility assessment. And then any sort of like form feedback that anybody has in terms of the movements that they have and any restrictions that they might have in terms of like exercise or deadlift, squat, or whatever it might be. Then we're going to do a strength and endurance testing in week 3 to sort of get a baseline as to where you're at. Now, it's not going to be 1 rep max deadlifts because I don't necessarily know that that's a good idea for a lot of people, yourself included sometimes. Then we're going to do week 4 is building mental toughness. And the reason I put this in is because I've noticed, and you maybe can attest to this, there is a point where the excitement starts to wear off. So when you sign up, you're like, this is going to be the fucking thing that changed my life. You're ticking every single box and you just can't wait because this is it. That's probably going to fall in line with like the end of January, start of February, where everybody's miserable. There's nothing to look forward to anymore. And I've generally noticed that with clients people in general, that's not really a fun time of year. So we're going to pull Sean on that in terms of the sort of mindset and breathwork stuff to sort of get past that and sort of reminder why you're doing it and sort of bring everything back to the why and sort of what it is you're trying to achieve. Then we're going into week 5, which will be an optimization phase. So sort of re-looking at your habits and behaviors. I find that, again, everything's so exciting at the start and you just want to tick every single box, but then you start to see what you can get away with, and you're maybe not hitting 10,000 steps, you're only hitting 8,000 steps, or you're maybe not only eating 2,000 calories, you're maybe eating 2,200 calories, and sort of bringing yourself back to, okay, right, what's working, what's not working, and how do we sort of realign with the goals that we initially set. Week 6 is going to be looking at, I guess, deeper level fitness techniques, and I'm going to do a community-based task. So I don't know what it will be, but something like collectively we want to hit 1 million steps or something like that, like bring everybody together that we are all contributing in some way. Week 7 is going to be future planning and goal setting. So like, what's the plan after the 8 weeks are up? Like, that's not the end of your fitness journey. That's basically only the start. So like looking at, okay, right, you have these tools, you have the knowledge now, you've spent essentially 7-8 weeks with the rest of the group, understanding, your movement, understanding how exercise works, understanding how nutrition works, sort of understanding where your downfalls are, potentially things that throw you off, and then sort of planning what the future and what essentially the rest of the year looks like. And then week 8 will be final deployment. a final boss workout, reflection, celebration. We'll bring Sean in for that again in terms of the breath work, and then we'll retest the stuff that we did from week 3. So to see, okay, right, in the span of, I guess, 6 weeks, what have we done in terms of strength increase, endurance increase, and sort of data markers around rest and heart rate variability, and what way things have increased over the past 2 months, essentially.
Yeah, really like that. I think that's a good structure for the program. And I think, 8 weeks is a good time frame to really kind of solidify and to start some of those good habits and start to get good feedback on what's working, what's not working, and adjust accordingly, right? It usually takes a few weeks for, once you start understanding calories and things like that, for the weight to kind of look at, either upward or downward, or what that looks like and where your calories should be at. Where your movement's at, what you're doing from a total daily energy expenditure perspective. So, all of those within, a 8-week type of program, I think makes a lot of sense. And, for me, there's a lot you can discover in 8 weeks, but also I think most importantly is starting to establish those habits. And I like coming out of that with a plan for the rest of the year that you can, really try to execute upon and see how successful you can be with it. Right. And really try to change your habits and lifestyles so that you can, get the desired results that you want to.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is, like, a lot of people going into this don't know what they don't know. Do you know what I mean? So after 8 weeks, you have a pretty solid understanding of, okay, right, you may be super keen at the start and want to train 6 days a week, but the reality of your life may not allow you to train 6 days a week. So 3 days a week, how do we do that? Understanding, what way you navigate your calories throughout the week. Do you prefer to eat more calories at the weekend, and how do you sort of spread your calories across the week? How you navigate calories around social events and banking calories, and all the buzzwords and things that you said there in terms of total daily energy expenditure. Like, educate you a little bit more around that, because again, many of the initial calls that I have with people are that there's just too much information out there. So the goal is, like, I'm going to give you the information on all this stuff as I see it and as I have done it for the past 8 years in terms of coaching, so that you have an understanding of what these things actually fucking mean and how they impact you, your goals, and your journey a long time. So it'll be a bit of an education process as well.
What do you think some of the biggest challenges are going to be for people coming into this program? Like, what's first of all, I guess, what does setup look like? And then, what do you think some of the biggest struggles you're going to see from most of the folks in this 8-week program?
I think, the setup's going to look like there basically will be similar setup to what you have in terms of there's 2 weekly calls. So they will have their own weekly call, yet to decide what day that's going to be. And they will also have access to the experts call on a Thursday. So I'll host one of those. Thomas hosted one last month, so I'll probably get him to host one a month as well. Sean hosts one in terms of the breathwork stuff, and then Lorena hosts one in terms of mobility. Everybody will get a check-in. Everybody will get their training plan. Everybody will get their nutrition guidelines outlined. I will say this. The goal with this is to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of the approach, because anybody who I coach and anybody who has heard me talk before, like, I like to sort of build something that's sustainable. I will teach you what is sustainable, but I also want to have a tangible result start to finish. So I will be a little bit more aggressive in terms of pushing more, in terms of maybe more steps, maybe more cardio, maybe more sessions, maybe less calories, just so you have a tangible result. So you get to the end of the 8 weeks and you feel much better, that you go, okay, right, I actually can do this, and this has actually worked. Biggest struggles will be probably just actually establishing the habits, and doing that in such a short space of time, because yes, it is 8 weeks, but there are a lot of things to cover. And that's why I've sort of tried to break it down week by week, so that I'm not coming in week 1 and be, okay, right, I need you to manage your food, I need you to do these steps, I need you to do a check-in, I need you to be on 2 calls a week, I need to do all these things. It's sort of ramp you up into it, so by the end of it, that you sort of know the stuff that you need to do and how you can execute that long term. Nutrition is the biggest piece of the puzzle for the majority of the people. So yes, okay, week 1 will be nutrition, understand that, but that's not going to be the last time that we speak about nutrition. I'm going to focus heavily on how people can build a system around food that accommodates their life, essentially. I know it's different for everybody. I know some people can just prep their food and they're good to go and they just bring it to work and there's no issues. I know some people have families to take into consideration and potentially fussy eaters or some sort of dietary requirements they need to, so we need to cook 2 or 3 different meals, or sort of how can they navigate that as a family. Some people travel a lot for work, so how do they navigate travel with work? Where should they eat? Like, what's their sort of go-tos with that? Some people who just are super sedentary in their life and they have to be at their computer. How we do sort of mobility techniques that you can do at your desk. Like, how do we sort of fit this into your life? So I don't want this, it's not going to be a one size fits all thing. It's like, okay, right, what struggles are you going to have and how do we overcome that and how do we build it? Same as I do with you guys. Like, how do we build this out around you so you can do it long term? Because I don't want anybody to get lost as that, okay, well, I can't actually do that. So falling into that and making sure that it's something that they sort of see that is sustainable for them long term.
Yeah, I was talking to an individual this last weekend, and he's like, it's crazy because my whole life I've been, let's just say at 170, and then all of a sudden, I hit my 30s, and all of a sudden now, I'm 230, 240. And I was like, well, what changed? He's like, well, I'm in front of a computer all day long. That's one, and two, if you take into consideration being in front of a computer all day versus what I was doing before, I'm burning less calories. I'm still eating the same, if not more. And, I've gotten a little bit older with things. So, it's a lot of times just minor tweaks in what you're doing. And again, everybody's goals are different. I always hear, hey, I'm thinking about, I've been listening to the Hacking Health podcast. I think I'm thinking about, joining, but I don't want to look like you. And I'm like, no, that's totally cool. Like, I totally understand. Like, and I appreciate that, by the way. But a lot of people don't want to get, big. They just want to, lean out. They want to, look, good in a shirt and, feel good about themselves and just live more of a natural type of longevity type of thing. Right. And that's totally fine. There's different ways of doing things and making minor tweaks and that will gauge how hard you want to go into this, right? Like, you don't have to lift 7 days a week, to
recommend.
Yeah.
Like, I would
don't
not
recommend.
Yeah, no.
Do not recommend.
No.
Probably doing yourself more injustice than not, unless you're doing it right. But
yeah.
It's one of those things where, your things that you can change in your life, most specifically around eating, have huge impacts on your overall lifestyle. I mean, just by cutting out, let's just say, regular sodas and switching to diet, just by looking at your total calorie intake and saying, well, hey, I don't really need to eat this thing, or maybe putting an excessive amount of cheese on something, which, although I do love cheese a lot, might be a little bit too much, so, being a little bit more restrictive. And, what they've seen from the data studies is that caloric restriction in general is one of the only things that we have in our toolbox to increase our lifespan, that and exercise. There's an experimental drug called rapamycin, which now is looking to be less promising based off of the data studies. Now there's some new data that came out that says, hey, it's probably not as good as we think it is. So, really, exercise and caloric restriction are the two main tools that we have to live longer, to live healthier, to live better, that show that increases our dopamine levels in our brains, makes us produce more energy, allows us to feel better about ourselves. Is, by the way, one of the largest proponents of less depression, anxiety, things to that effect as well. So there's Dr. Rhonda Patrick just did a whole thing on SSRIs and depression. And a lot of the data studies showed if you frequently and regular exercise, a lot of folks have been able to cut out their SSRIs and things like that because of the antidepressive effects that lifting has with you, or just being more active in general. And so I think a lot of the things that you see today in society, the high caloric foods, the heavily processed foods, the types of stuff we're putting into our bodies, plus the sedentary lifestyle, is really causing a lot of havoc on, not just our bodies, but our brains and everything else and how we feel. And so, just the minor changes around eating habits, switching more towards whole foods and eating more nutrient dense type of foods, your ability to actually track sleep and get some good sleep. Sleep, one of the best things that we can ever possibly do for our bodies. I'll tell you, like, my sleep over the past 4 months has been the best it's ever been in my entire life. Like, my heart rate variability scores, my sleep levels, like, I'm getting like a 98% recovery score, on stuff like that's,
Where's the leaderboard for this? Where's the We Hack Health sleep leaderboard so we can get you going on that?
Yeah. I mean, dude, I'd be on top. I'd be on top. Trust me. Like, I think I got 8 hours last night, I'm just like, I'm chilling. It's great. And I still don't want to wake up in the morning, but it's still great. I still got a 98% sleep score. But, it's those things that we can do that we know work and work well and work consistently for everybody else. And what they've shown is, a lot of folks think that, hey, I have a low metabolism or things like that. What they've shown is that it's not really the case. people don't really have a low or high metabolism. In fact, most people that are heavier set have a higher metabolism because they have to burn more calories because of the amount of mass that they have. And doing that is the problem is how many calories that we're actually eating throughout the day. So, these minor changes that we can look at, and having somebody that can actually take a look at what you're doing and what you might be able to improve on. Again, whether it's just going out for a walk or just getting 30 minutes out there. There was a study that showed that if you twice a day sprinted up a flight of stairs, would reduce your mortality rate by like 65%. It was either 55 or 65%. I can't remember the exact state, but it was huge, right? Like just by sprinting up the steps twice, like a day, like that somebody can do that. Trust me.
Mhm.
Like little things can make big differences in how you outlook, and having somebody actually look at that. I really like this program especially for that 8-week period, because you get a really nice snapshot from an expert that says, hey, this is where I'm at today. Here's where I think I'm at today, by the way. And you start diving down into the data and you're like, okay, well, I'm really here. And here's what we can course correct to actually go and fix it. And here's the plan to actually adjust this. And I think that's really smart.
Yeah, and there's other things, just you mentioned about sleep and stuff, like there's other things I'm going to try and do that I haven't been able to confirm yet, but hopefully on those experts calls is bring a sleep expert in to talk about the importance of sleep, because we can all say, yes, we need to get more sleep and blah, blah, blah. But the reality of it is like not that many people do the things that they need to do that. I have lined up a gut health expert as well to talk about digestion, because I think that's a big problem that people face as well. And just even talking about processed
I need to
food.
come up with that this morning, by the way. Just throwing it out.
Pre-workout. No, does that not solve the problem?
Yeah, no, it definitely is the problem.
That is the problem.
Problem is, it hit me when I was right in the middle of working out.
Yeah, still not got a bathroom built in the gym.
Yeah.
But things like that, because it's often overlooked. Like even you talking about the processed foods, like what impact does that have on your digestion and how you start to overcome things like that? And I'm not going to make it mandatory, but I will recommend at the start that everybody gets a blood work done as well, and we can have someone potentially come in and look at bloods to see, okay, right, even from a supplements perspective, what should we start to take and base it on actual blood work. So there's plenty of other things that we can do within that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do with it.
It's funny. I saw they asked Eddie Hall, one of the strongest men alive. I think he is the strongest man alive.
He was definitely the strongest man at some point.
Yeah. He's insanely strong, just ridiculous. But they were asking him, like, what supplements do you recommend people? Which is the question that some of you can tell I always like eye roll, because they're like, supplements don't really make a huge difference. But the ones that he said are the ones that we preach here the most. It's like, hey, whey protein, or some sort of protein supplementation so you can get enough protein throughout the day. If you can't get enough protein through, eating naturally, and I supplement with whey protein, Hacking Your Health whey protein, by the way, shout out. But, and then, BCAAs or EAAs, so branched chain amino acids or essential amino acids, which are the byproduct of what your body digests, supplementing those, especially like in I usually take my BCAAs and EAAs in my workout mix. So I usually just put water, BCAAs, and I put creatine. Creatine is one of those like amazing supplements. I actually just got asked a question this weekend on whether or not creatine was safe for children, younger teens, I should say. And the recommended is 18 and over. However, it looks to be pretty safe. I mean, it looks to be extremely safe for anybody at least 15. And even probably younger than that, to be perfectly honest with you. Creatine is one of the most studied supplements. And the first thing you always hear is, well, I hear it impacts your kidneys. And that's such a big misnomer. It does not impact your kidneys. What happens is your creatine levels go up, obviously, because you're taking creatine. And creatine is used as a measurement of how well your kidney is filtering. Creatine and then bun levels are how well your kidneys actually functioning and filtering. The problem is if you take creatine, it's going to impact your creatine levels, which then, it skews the blood work results to make it look like, hey, maybe I'm having kidney issues. The National Kidney Disease Association has come out and said creatine has no impact to kidney health. There's like thousands of data studies that have looked at this. What creatine does is it helps not only the recovery of your muscles and growth of muscles. So you actually increase muscle mass by taking creatine. It's one of the safest things for increasing more muscle mass and recovery, because it shoots water into your muscles. And so you might notice a little bit of bloating of the muscles and things like that, which is actually a good thing, by the way. Like, it's not the skin water weight, if I'm talking about, like the kind of like full look that you get.
It fills the water into the muscle. So even right. I remember a couple of times. Yeah, but I remember a couple of times people asking, coming up to shoot prep, whenever you're trying to be as lean as possible and you're trying to get rid of as much water, do you get rid of creatine? But it doesn't hold it in between the skin or in the fat cells. It holds it in the muscle. So you actually want more of that. So you do look for that.
That's good.
We should do I don't know if it's a bit much for people, but I think we should do a full episode on creatine, because even just the like how it actually works and what it actually is, because it, a lot of people do talk about it. So I think we should do that at some point in the future.
Well, and I think it's just for muscles too. It's also, your brain is one of your largest muscles that you have. It also helps with brain development. So from a kid's perspective, it's amazing for brain development and brain health. There's so many different benefits from that, but you got to be consistent with it. But anyways, the supplement side is interesting because it's just the basic stuff that makes a big difference. And, I always get asked about like things like, hey, I don't want to ever touch steroids, but what do you think about SARMs and things like that? And, I've seen a lot of the research on SARMs. It was supposed to be like the most promising new thing because it would hit, selectively the muscles that you want without the byproducts of steroids. But it turns out it's not. Most of the data studies show that SARMs aren't, as effective, and they probably already, they probably carry the same level of risk as those other things. So, it's like, you got to be careful on the stuff you take and what you look at. But most importantly, like, you need to have a foundation. You need to do the basics. You need to do all of the right things first, and then look at possibly supplementing, down the road when you have a good, level of things. But I'll say, like a solid foundation is hitting your protein goals. So whey protein or, plant-based protein, whatever you can do to get the protein in is one of those foundational things I'd heavily recommend. And if you wanted to get crazy with it, some EAs and BCAs and creatine, that's about all you really need. I'd also say like omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and those types of things can be really beneficial, but again, you're probably getting a lot of that. You probably have, enough of that already. Maybe not vitamin D, but, everything else is just, looking at your blood work, looking at what you're doing, making sure you have good habits, and then from there kind of building on that.
For sure. So that will be what we're going to look at in the first 8 to 10 weeks of the new year, which I'm looking forward to. So it will be, I'll put the link live today, which will be live for tomorrow when I release this podcast. I'm going to do a Black Friday offer on that as well. That will be live until, I guess, midnight on whatever date next Monday is. So it'll be $100 off for anybody who joins within this week, and we can get going on that, which I'm looking forward to. But I'll keep everybody posted over the next couple of podcast episodes as well as to what's actually going on, and sort of as I build out the program a little bit more, sort of keep everybody in the loop as to what they can get involved in.
Yeah, I'm excited about the new launch, man. It's great. I think it's an awesome thing for folks to really kind of test the waters and see, where they're at, what they need to be doing better. And this is, I think, good for both people that, are just starting, but also folks that may, be in a certain wall or, have hit a plateau that need, a little bit of a push to the next level. So it's not just always, the basics. It's also, folks that maybe, have gotten to where they possibly can and they need a little bit of help moving different areas. So I'm really excited about where this is going.
Yeah, for sure. And even with the, towards the end of the year, it can become a bit of a shit show with everything going on. So maybe just a bit of a reset at the start of the new year. So hopefully it'll tick all the boxes. And as I say, I'll keep everybody posted. But I guess thanks for listening. Hope everybody has a fucking awesome Thanksgiving. Appreciate everybody.
If you're into Thanksgiving, there's cranberry sauce that comes from the can. That's the only cranberry sauce that you're allowed to have. Like homemade cranberry sauce is garbage. If there's stuff that comes out that doesn't have like the ripples in it, that like it's like a little jelly gelatin thing, it's gotta be. You gotta see the ripples in the can. That's when you know it's good cranberry sauce. Otherwise, you gotta slice it. That's right. Yeah, that's the best. That's the only kind of cranberry sauce that is acceptable at the dinner table. Anything else gets thrown away in a pile of junk and burned in flames. So just an FYI.
So, right, everybody, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.